Okay. Okay. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف خلق الله أجمعين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, and thank you very much for this opportunity. And today I will speak about a very interesting topic, which is using the artificial intelligence to discriminate between the Quranic text and the other text. So this is very important, especially for people who do not speak Arabic and who cannot discriminate between the Quranic text and the other text, the other Arabic text. So the outline of the talk today is to first I will speak about a very brief introduction, and then I will speak about what is stylometry and the different types of authorship problems, which we can solve them using these methods and techniques. And then I will speak about the hierarchical clustering, which is very important here, and I will show how we interpret the result using the hierarchical clustering. And then we'll speak about the first experiment, which is Quran and prose text. The second experiment will be the Quran and the poems. And the last one will be the Quran and the Hadith. And then I will be finishing with the conclusion, inshallah. So let me start with this ayah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, وَإِن كُنتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِّمَّا نَزَّلْنَا عَلَىٰ عَبْدِنَا فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّن مِّثْلِهِ وَادْعُوا شُهَدَاءَكُم مِّن دُونِ اللَّهِ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ فَإِن لَّمْ تَفْعَلُوا وَلَن تَفْعَلُوا فَاتَّقُوا النَّارَ الَّتِي وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةُ أُعِدَّتْ لِلْكَافِرِينَ. And if you are in doubt about what we have revealed to our servant, then produce a chapter like this and call your witnesses apart from God if you are truthful. And it is clear that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the prophets with two things. Any prophet was sent with two things. The miracle, which shows that he is a messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the book, which contains the wisdom and the rules and the teachings of how to live the correct life. So for example, Moses alayhi salam sent with his stick and also a Torah, the Old Testament. And Isa alayhi salam also said he was able to treat the illness to show that he is a messenger from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also he had the Bible, Al-Injil. Except Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the miracle and the book were the same thing. The book was a miracle. That's why we need to try to find how this book was a miracle and why most of the people at that time believe in this book. So stylometry, what is stylometry? If you would like to identify the stylometry, we can say that stylometry can be defined as a computer analysis of writing style. So we use the machine learning and the artificial intelligence methods and techniques in order to find the patterns which you use usually by the different authors. And according to that, we find the authorial fingerprint to discriminate between the different texts according to the author fingerprint. So we use that to detect the very tiny strokes which make up the authorial fingerprint. We have two different types of authorship. The first one, the first category is the authorship analysis. And the second one is the authorship or author profiling. The authorship analysis, we are trying to find who is the author or to verify if a specific author has written this text. On the other hand, the author profiling we are trying to collect these different authors in groups according to something shared, like the gender or the education, the variety, or the time. So in our experiment, we will do both of them. The first experiment is the 10 traveler experiment, and this was my first experiment to find the author fingerprint. I have collected 10 different books. All of them were written in the domain of travel, and all of them were lived approximately at the same time and used the same language. This make my test bed very suitable for authorship attribution task. And from each book, I took 10 samples, and that was taken randomly from the beginning of the book, the middle, the end of the book, and the length of each sample was 2,000 words. So now I have 10 books, from each book 10 samples. That means from each book 20,000 words, and the whole corpus contains 200,000 words. Okay. To find the authorial fingerprint, we use the text features, and different researchers use different features. We can call them features, like the most common word, and this usually contains the words from the prepositions, auxiliary verbs, and so on. Some of them use word 2 grams. Some of them use character bigram, character tetragram, 5 gram, word length, sentence length, vocabulary richness, speech pause. And they use these because usually the frequency of the most frequent words are topic independent. I'm going to explain that in minutes. So to turn a text to a numerical vector, because the computer need to turn that to numerical vector to deal with the different text, and then we generate the vectors according to the frequency. For example, the most frequent word here are usually, if you take the most frequent word in any corpus, the top 100 frequent words, you will find them word like this: for, the, in, has, which are words can be used by the author to produce two different topics, one about sport and the other about culture, for example. This performs the style of the author. This produces the author fingerprint. So we use them to generate these vectors in order to make the computer able to compare between these different texts. If we can see here the table of frequency, on the left, we will find in this column the features, which are the most frequent words. And at the top here are the names of the samples. For example, the author H has 10 samples from H1 till H10, and the author J has 10 samples from J1 to J10. The first samples, it measure the frequency for the word phi, for example, by finding the frequency and dividing that over the length of the text. That will reduce how usually this author, or how this author used this feature in this sample. Now, reducing this column, we are producing the numerical vector, so we can compare the text according to the numerical vector which were produced from the text. How we compare that? By using the distance measurement techniques, and these are very well known formulas, like the classic delta, the Manhattan distance, the cosine, and so on. So we just use that, and we merge the similar vectors in different clusters. I'm going to bypass this slide and go directly to the graph because it will be easier to understand that directly from the graph. Let us imagine that we have different text. The first text is X, second Y, M, S, and the last one is A. And by using these mathematical methods, we can measure the distance between them. So here, if we use the delta, we will find here, for example, S is very similar and close as a numerical vector to M. And X also is very similar to Y. A is different totally. So we merge the similar cluster variously. And then the last thing, because A is different totally, we merge A, and the output graph will be something like that. S is similar to M, and X is similar to Y, and A is different totally. So when we use the text from the 10th Ravila, the corpus of the 10th Ravila, and we use short text like 500 words, the cluster was not clear, and the reason is that because most of the researcher has mentioned that the authorial fingerprint could be found in a length of 2,000 words. So I add more text here, and in this graph, as you can see, all the text from the author K were clustered together according to the authorial fingerprint, and all the text from the author text H together, clustered together. And if we can notice here, we have 3 books. T1 has 10 samples, T2 has 10 samples, T3 has 10 samples. All of these 30 samples written by Muhammad Sabit, a single author, and that's why we can find here they are clustered under a separate branch. Now, when we add 10 random texts from the Holy Quran, what happened? As we can see here, it was very clear for the algorithm that all these texts, which were written by the human being, by the different people, were clustered in under one branch, and the Quran is something different totally, which confirms that the Quran text and the authorial fingerprint in the Quranic text is different totally. We can say here the author M is quite similar to the author Z, and both of them similar to this group and so on, but at the end the Quran is different. So to somebody could say that these authors were lived together and the time of the Quran is different, and this is a valid claim, by the way. And to confirm that the Quran is different from the text, the Arabic text among us, the different times and ages, I use another experiment. And here I compare the Quran in this slide with the text from the pre-Islamic time, which can be described as a challenge, or to find if the Quranic text is similar to the pre-Islamic poems or not, because it's supposed to be very similar to it, and it's supposed to cluster with it. But as we can see here, the Quran again clustered alone here in a separate branch, and the text from pre-Islamic time start with PRE, Bri, Imr al-Qais, Nabigha, Antara, and Bashar. We have text from pre-Islamic time. We're clustered even with text from the Umayyad time, which is a long time after the beginning of Islam, and the Abbasid time. And now from this experiment also we can show that the Quran is different from the poems. Now we can say that Quran is different from poems and different from prose as well. Here is another experiment from Brother Ahmed Jamal, who has collected different texts from Hadith and different segments from Quran. And as we can see here, the cluster of the Quran is different totally from the cluster of the Hadith, although Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam told us about both of them, which confirms that the source of the Quran is different from the source of the Hadith because of the authorial fingerprint. The authorial fingerprint is different totally, and they reduce different clusters. So in conclusion, I can say that the authorial fingerprint in the Quranic text is different from Hadith, and this confirms that the source of the Quranic is different from the Hadith, and also the Quranic text is different from all poems from the different times, including the pre-Islamic time when it was revealed. And according to the result of the different experiments using different types of texts, the Quran is actually unique. And I would like to finish my talk by this ayat from Surah Al-Haqqa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, إِنَّهُ لَقَوْلُ رَسُولٍ كَرِيمٍ وَمَا هُوَ بِقَوْلِ شَاعِرٍ قَلِيلًا مَا تُؤْمِنُونَ وَلَا بِقَوْلِ كَاهِنٍ قَلِيلًا مَا تَذَكَّرُونَ تَنزِيلٌ مِّن رَّبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ ولو تقول علينا بعض الأقاويل لأخذنا منه باليمين ثم لقطعنا منه الوتين وما منكم من أحد عنه حاجزين وإنه لتذكرة للمتقين وإنا لنعلم أن منكم مكذبين وإنه لحسرة على الكافرين وإنه لحق اليقين فسبح باسم ربك العظيم. Indeed, this Quran is a recitation of a noble messenger. It is not the prose of a poet as you claim, yet you hardly have any faith, nor is mumbling of fortune teller, yet you are hardly mindful. It is a revelation from the Lord of all words. صدق الله العظيم وقال رسوله الكريم وإنا على ذلك لمن الشاهدين وجزاكم الله خيرا. Assalamu alaikum, and time now for questions.
MashaAllah, Sheikh Omer, that was I had a bit of goosebumps when you were explaining all these things, because I work more or less in the same field, and we use these techniques to classify books. So we put books because you need, when you sell books, you want to be able to tell someone that this is a geography book, and in geography it's about Africa and so on and so forth. And before, what we do is that, human being will have to read the book and classify them for us. And now we use the same techniques to classify those books. So you put it in the computer, you put the text in the computer, and the computer tells you, if this is philosophy or this is science or this is medicine. And it's the same time, so it has never come across to actually think about that, you can use that, those same tools in this so beneficial way. It's really, really amazing. And as I was saying, I had good goosebumps when, I was so impressed when you were, explaining that. And I can see, what you're saying, and it's proving, something really interesting here. Thank you so much for the time you take. So it wasn't a question, but I'm just saying that, really, really interesting.
Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah. Yes, we can use the same technique and methods to classify the texts according to topics.
Yeah.
But when we use the stop words, which are usually being deleted when you are trying to classify the text, when you use these stop words, we use the serial fingerprint, because these are the topic independent, and the author will use the same set of the prepositions and the auxiliary verbs to produce different topics in different domains.
Yeah.
But that actually forms the authorial fingerprints. That's why we keep them, and we generate the the mathematical or the vectors from in order to compare the author according to the author fingerprint.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And what, if I might ask, what sort of the systems do you use to do the what type of system do you use?
Yes, the good news that I use R programming language,
Yeah,
and I use an open source library which can be downloaded by anyone and can use it to double check these results. And the name of the library is Stylo. So you can, yes, Stylo.
Yeah.
You can find it in the internet. You can download it. Just you have to make sure that the text are in the similar format. If you use text with diacritics, for example, the Quran should be using the same format. If you remove the diacritics, you have to remove that from the Quran. The text should be similar. The features which you are going to use to compare the different texts should be similar. Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm familiar with the programming language to find patterns and in artificial language, but no Stylo. That's really interesting. Thank you, Jazakallah. I don't know, anyone else has a question?
I had a question to Dr. Ahmed on the prophetic saying, the hadith. We have different types of hadith. Like we have the Qudsi hadith, which is the source is coming from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, and it is pronounced, by Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So, have you done any comparisons in hadith between the hadith, which is usually what Rasulullah says, and the Qudsi hadith, and also the Quran
This is a very important question, and to be honest, I cannot answer now because right now I'm working in some experiments, and I cannot tell about the result until to make sure what is the result. But the problem here and the restrictions here and the limitations here, that I cannot find a lot of hadith Qudsi, and as you know, to find the authorial fingerprint, you need 2,000 continuous words to find that, and most of the hadith are short. So I'm trying to collect a group of hadith, and also there is another problem is that some of them are sahih and some of them are not sahih.
Yes.
Which make the problem is more complicated. So maybe I will continue in these experiments, and if I find something, inshallah, I will make a lecture or a report that to
inshallah.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair. But the good thing is that the people who do not speak Arabic, they can use these tools to find this or to investigate this claim, because it is a real miracle when the Quranic text does not sit in any cluster, it just sits alone, which confirms that the people at that time were not able to come with something similar. And the challenge of Quran and ta'tu bi suratin min misli, to produce something like this, they were not able. They were not able, and the algorithm shows that they were not able. Yeah.
Yeah, there is always this Orientalist views, of course, on the text that is coming from the Rasulullah or the Quran itself. Of course, if you don't believe it's from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, that's where you will go. Inshallah, this is what Rasulullah came up with. But Subhanallah, for Rasulullah to keep this consistently is a mu'jiza in itself. To have Quran as a separate entity, and also hadith to be as a separate entity. These words are all coming from the mouth of Rasulullah. But as you were saying, you were pointing out that this is because the source itself is different. It's coming from a different place. That's why it's clearly distinct from the between hadith. There is this distinction between hadith and Quran.
Exactly. That's right.
Do we have questions from audience on this topic? If not, inshallah, we can close, inshallah, earlier today, because Dr. Ahmed is actually on another country, and he's going to break the fast soon, inshallah. Inshallah.
MashaAllah, I think it was really really good and on the point. And when we started, you said the fast breaking is at 6 o'clock. I thought, he might be fasting on camera, but you did it on time, and really good, interesting. Thank you so much. Yeah, MashaAllah. Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you for the opportunity. And jazakumullah khair. Barakallahu feekum.
Barak feekum, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, everyone.
Alaikum.